The neon lights of New Chicago's skyline pierced through Ryan Brooks' apartment window, casting purple shadows across his austere living space. He stood at his workstation surrounded by holographic blueprints of the latest space station design when his comm link chimed with an urgent news alert. Breaking news: Earth Unity Party pushes through emergency legislation. The Alien Marriage Prohibition Act passes with immediate effect. Ryan's hands froze over the projection controls, his heart rate SP. That as the implications hit him, the stylus he'd been holding clattered to the floor. Effective immediately, all non-human spouses must report for processing and deportation within 48 hours. The newscaster continued. Any human citizens harboring illegal alien spouses will face severe penalties. Computer call Celia. Ryan commanded, his voice tight. The system beeped. Negative. Unable to connect. The number you are trying to reach has been disconnected. Damn it. He grabbed his jacket, already heading for the door, when it chimed through the security feed. He saw her violet skin, practically glowing under the hallway lights, white hair disheveled, emerald eyes wide with panic. He yanked the door open. Celia practically fell into his arms. They're already coming, she gasped. They're going. Door Toto in the alien quarter. I barely got out. Ryan pulled her inside, checking the hallway before securing the door. I just saw the news. How did they push this through so fast? The Unity Party had it prepared. They were just waiting for the right moment. Celia Pack, her movements jerky. That incident last week with the proximate ambassador's son, they used it as justification, claimed it proved aliens were destabilizing human society. That's ridiculous. One bar fight doesn't justify. They don't need justification, Ryan. They just need fear. She stopped pacing, wrapping her arms around herself. What are we going to do? He moved to her, placing his hands on her shoulders. We'll figure something out. Maybe we can appeal to the Galactic Alliance, get them to pressure Earth to I'm pregnant. The words hung in the air between them. Ryan's hands tightened on her shoulders. What I found out 3 days ago. I was waiting for the right moment to tell you. A bitter laugh escaped her. I guess this is it. Ryan's military training kicked in, his mind already calculating options, risks, contingencies. Can you return to Alir? Just temporarily, until we can fight this legally. Celia shook her head. My body's adapted too much to Earth's environment. Carrying a hybrid child off-world. She swallowed hard. The doctors say it would likely kill us both. Then we're not letting them deport you. His voice was stir. Ryan, you can't throw away your career, your life. Watch me. He moved to his security console, fingers flying over it. The controls. Computer initiate privacy protocols. Full spectrum signal block. No data in or out. That's only buying us hours. Celia said hours are what we need. He turned to her, his expression intense. Do you trust me? You know I do. Then pack what you can carry. Light essential items only. He was already moving to his own bedroom, pulling out a worn military duffel bag. I have contacts from my service days. People who operate outside the system. Criminals? You mean freedom fighters? Depending on your perspective. He paused, looking at her. I know this isn't what you signed up for. Celia crossed to him, pressing her palm against his chest. Even through his shirt, her touch carried that slight electrical charge characteristic of her species. I signed up for you. Everything else is just details. A hover transport whooshed past the window, its anti-grav fields humming. Ryan watched Celia Pack, his mind drifting back to their first meeting 6 months ago aboard the Alliance research station Helios. He'd been overseeing the installation of new quantum drive stabilizers when he literally ran into her in the zero-gravity section. Watch your trajectory, he called out, reaching to stabilize her drift. His hand had caught her arm, and he felt that distinctive electrical tingle of Illyrian biology. She laughed, her white hair floating around her face like a cosmic halo. Maybe you should watch yours, Engineer Brooks. I was maintaining a perfectly stable vector until you deviated from yours. He'd been struck not just by her beauty, though the violet skin and emerald eyes were certainly striking, but by the intelligence sparking in those eyes. You know my name. I make it my business to know who's tinkering with the station's drives, especially when they're former military pilots with impressive credentials. She'd extended her hand in the Earth greeting style to hers. Celia Valor Xenobiology Division, now watching her hastily pack their life together into a single bag. Ryan felt a familiar ache, their whirlwind romance had seemed like destiny, the logical engineer and the passionate scientist, finding common ground in their love of discovery, the unofficial wedding ceremony in the station's observation. Stars wheeling around them as they exchange vows had felt like the beginning of something revolutionary. The news feeds are going crazy, Celia set her eyes on her personal holo display. They're calling it the Purification Act in some circles. Listen to this propaganda. Earth must preserve its genetic heritage. The mixing of species threatens the very foundation of human evolution. They're scared, Rayan said, checking his weapon cache. The military-grade stunner felt cold in his hands. Humanity finally reaches the stars, discovers we're not alone, and some can't handle that we're not special anymore. But we've had mixed marriages for decades. The Galactic Alliance was founded on principles of integration. My own sister married a Centurion 3 years ago. And how many human supremacist groups have been gaining power since then? Ryan loaded power cells into the stunner. The Unity Party's been building to this. They just needed the right crisis. A series of sharp knocks at the door made them both freeze. A mechanical voice carried through. Attention residents. This is a Xena Relations Division sweep. All non-human residents must present themselves for processing. Ryan motioned Celia toward the bedroom. She moved silently. Years of low-gravity training making her steps practically weightless. He approached the door, adjusting his posture to Project Seoul. Authority interface active. He commanded. The door's display system activated, showing 2 enforcement officers, a human male and what appeared to be a Martian cyborg. Yes, Rayan kept his voice neutral. Routine check, sir. Our scans detected non-human biosignatures in this sector. Are you harboring any alien residence number? I live alone. The lie felt bitter on his tongue. The cyborg officer's augmented I word. Our readings indicate recent Illyrian presence. I work with several Illyrian scientists at the station construction facility. They visited for project consultations. The human officer consulted his data pad. Former military, is that correct, Lieutenant Brooks? That's right. Then you understand the importance of compliance with security protocols. The officer's tone hardened. The new law is clear. Harboring illegal aliens is a Class 1 offense. I understand completely. Ryan forced a smile. Feel free to log my bioscan. I have nothing to hide. The cyborg officer raised his hand, scanner extending from his palm. Ryan stood still, praying the shielding upgrades he'd installed would hold. After a moment, the scanner beeped. Scanned clear. Human biosignatures only. The cyborg lowered his hand. Apologies for the disturb. Insurance, sir. No problem. Just doing your job. The moment the officers moved on, Ryan slumped against the door. His heart was pounding. The shielding had worked, but it wouldn't fool more sophisticated scans. They were running out of time. They're gone, he called softly. Celia emerged from the bedroom, her face pale. That was too close. We need to move now. He grabbed their packed bags. I have a contact in the old industrial sector. He can get us off the grid, but we have to reach him before they lock down the TR transit systems. And then what? Then we find a way to fight this, not just for us. He placed his hand on her still flat stomach. For all of them. Celia covered his hand with hers. That familiar tingle passing between them. I'm scared, Ryan, not of running, but what kind of world are we bringing this child into? One we're going to change. He kissed her, tasting the slight metallic sweetness that was uniquely hers. Ready? She squared her shoulders, emerald eyes fierce, ready. Together they slipped out into the neon-lit night of New Chicago, 2 fugitives in a world that had suddenly made their love a crime above them. The massive form of an Alliance cruiser crossed the sky, its quantum drives painting auroral patterns through the clouds, a reminder of the greater universe that awaited if they could just survive until dawn. The streets of New Chicago's upper levels gleamed with holographic advertisements and streams of automated traffic. Ryan led Celia through back alleys and maintenance corridors, avoiding the main thoroughfares where facial recognition systems were ubiquitous as military training kicked in. Movement in shadows, careful timing. Using the city's rhythms as cover hold, he whispered, pulling Celia into a doorway as a police drone buzzed past. The machine sensors swept the area with invisible beams, searching for unauthorized biosignatures. Celia pressed closer to him, her body temperature slightly higher than human norm, another Alzerian trait that made hiding more challenging. When the drone Past, they continued their careful descent toward the industrial sector. The deeper they went, the more the city's gleaming facade gave way to aging infrastructure and forgotten spaces. Here, the neon was broken, the holograms flickered, and the shadows held secrets. Tell me about this contact, Celia whispered as they navigated a narrow walkway between buildings. Dex Martinez. We served together in the Proxima campaign. Ray unchecked their position on his modified nav unit. After the war, he went private sector. Very private. You mean criminal? I mean, he helps people. The system has failed. Ryan paused at an intersection, scanning for threats. He was there when I earned these. He tapped the faint scars on his neck, remnants of a plasma burst that had nearly killed him. You never told me about that battle. Never seemed relevant until now. He guided her down a maintenance lead. We were pinned down on Proxima B, cut off from our unit. Dex carried me 3 kilometers through radiation storms to reach the evac point. He didn't have to. Standing orders were to leave the critically wounded. They reached a massive drainpipe big enough to walk through. Stale air wafted from its depths. Please tell me we're not going in there, Celia said. Trust me. She gave him a look. I married you and Zerg while reciting vows in both Earth Standard and High Alzerian. I think we're past the trust question. The memory of their wedding flashed through Ryan's mind as they made their way through the tunnel. It had been 3 months ago, though it felt like another lifetime. Now they'd chosen the observation dome because it offered the best view of both Earth and the Eller system's distant star. The ceremony had been small, just them, a few close friends from the station crew, and an old maintenance spot they'd reprogrammed to serve as efficient. Celia had worn a traditional Illyrian bonding dress, the fabric seeming to capture and release starlight. Her white hair had been braided with quantum-shifting threads that changed color with her emotions when she'd spoken her vows in the musical tones of her native language. The threads had blazed with colors humans had no words for by the laws of Earth and the traditions of Illyr. The bot had intoned, I now pronounce you. That's when the artificial gravity had failed. They'd all floated free, laughing. And Rayan had pulled Celia close for their first kiss as a married couple, spinning slowly among the stars. Here, Ryan said, stopping at a seemingly blank section of tunnel wall. He pressed his palm against it, and hidden sensors read his biological signature. A door materialized, sliding open with a soft hiss. They stepped into a dimly lit room, filled with mismatched furniture and walls of flickering screens. A man sat at a cluttered desk, his dark skin marked with subdermal tech implants that pulsed with blue light. Rayan Brooks, Dex said, standing. I figured you'd show up eventually. His cybernetic eye whirred as it focused on Celia. And this must be the Mrs. Pleasure to meet you, Doctor. Your paper on xenobiological adaptation matrices was fascinating. You read xenobiology journals? Celia asked, surprised. I read everything. Dex gestured to the screens around them. Information is survival in my line of work. Speaking of which, he tapped one screen, bringing up news feeds. You two are already making headlines. Former war hero harbors alien spouse. They work fast these days. We need to disappear, Rayan said. Everyone needs to disappear. Dex walked to a cabinet and pulled out a bottle of something that glowed faintly purple. That you two need it more than most, especially with the little one on the way. Rayan tensed. How did you like? I said, information is survival. Dex poured 3 glasses, and your wife's biosignatures are broadcasting, expecting to anyone with the right sensors, which is why we need to move fast. He handed them each a glass. This is Alzerian wine, safe for the baby, good for the nerves. You're going to need it when you hear the plan. What plan? Celia asked. Dex grinned, his tech implants pulsing faster. How do you feel about becoming an android? An android? Celia stared at Dex incredulously. That's your brilliant plan, not just any android. Dex activated a holographic display, showing various models of companion robots. The latest luxury models are practically indistinguishable from organic beings, and they're programmed to be distinctive in appearance, like violet skin and white hair. Rayan realized exactly. Plus, they're exempt from bioscan protocols, privacy laws. Dex's cybernetic eye whirred as he pulled up more specs. The wealthy don't want their expensive toys being scanned in public. Rayan watched Celia consider this, her emerald eyes Narrowing it could work, she said slowly, but my biological signatures already handled Dex produced a sleek metallic collar latest in signal dampening tech. It'll mask your life signs while broadcasting appropriate Android frequencies. And what happens when someone tries to interface with me? That's where it gets fun. Dex's grin widened. The collar includes basic Android response protocols. Just follow the prompts. It feeds you 3 hours later. Celia stood transformed. The collar gleamed at her throat, her white hair styled in the latest Android fashion. Her scientific jumpsuit had been replaced with a flowing dress that emphasized her alien beauty while suggesting artificial perfection. How do I look? She asked, executing a practice spin like the most expensive companion bot credits can buy. Dex said approvingly. Ryan couldn't take his eyes off her, even knowing it was a disguise. Something primal stirred in him. Celia caught his look and smiled, a hint of mischief in her eyes. Your heart rate is elevated, master, she said in perfect Android cadence. Shall I adjust my appearance parameters to reduce stimulation? Dex burst out laughing. She's a natural. Their amusement was interrupted by an alert from Dex's security systems. He moved to his screens. Suddenly serious. You need to see this, he said, bringing up a newsfeed. A striking woman in a Xena Relations Division uniform was speaking to reporters. We are committed to enforcing the Alien Marriage Prohibition Act with all available resources. Any humans harboring illegal alien spouses will face severe consequences. Ryan felt his stomach drop. Valerie. Celia looked between him and the screen. You know her, Agent Valerie Dio, he said quietly. We were together during the war. Before or after you saved my life? Dex asked, his cybernetic eye focused on Ryan. Before. It ended badly. How badly? I chose duty over her, reported her brother, for selling military secrets to the Proximus. Brian's jaw tightened. He went to prison. She never forgave me, and now she's hunting alien spouses. Celia said, wonderful. This changes things. Dex said, Valerie smart. She'll know your patterns, your contacts. She'll know you helped me during the war. Ryan pointed out, already planned for that. Dex activated another screen showing a transport schedule. There's a luxury cruise ship leaving for the Mars colonies tonight, and clientele. Lots of companion bots. Perfect cover for your first test run. And if we're caught? Celia asked. Then I suggest you give the performance of your life. Dex handed them their forged documents, because Valerie Dio doesn't fail, and she doesn't forgive. The spaceport's main terminal sared overhead, its crystalline dome refracting the setting sun into prismatic patterns. Ryan guided Celia through the crowded concourse, trying to project the confident air of a wealthy man with his expensive android companion. Inside, his pulse raced. Security checkpoint ahead, he murmured. Remember the protocols? Yes, master, Celia replied in that perfect mechanical cadence she'd been practicing for hours. They joined the line for first-class passengers. Around them, the elite of Earth society waited with their own companion androids, some humanoid, others exotic designs that pushed the boundaries of art and technology. Celia fit right in her alien beauty, now a mark of artificial sophistication rather than a danger signal. Next called the security officer, a gruff man with military-grade cybernetic enhancements. Ryan presented their documents. Businessmen Marcus Cole and companion unit Axe 749. The officer's augmented eyes scanned their credentials, then focused on Celia. Impressive model, Lyrian design. Base, the very latest, Ryan said smoothly. Cost more than my first starship. Need to run standard interface protocols. New regulations. Ryan's heart skipped. They hadn't prepared for this. But before he could object, Celia stepped forward. Interface protocols accepted, she said, her voice taking on the slight harmonic undertone of high-end androids. This unit is ready for inspection. The officer raised his hand. Cybernetic interfaces extending southeast remained perfectly still as he established connection with her Caller broadcasting systems. Unusual reading in the power core. He frowned. Temperature variance above normal parameters, a known issue with this model. Ryan interrupted. The exotic power systems run hot. It's part of their appeal. The officer frown deepened. I should run a full diagnostic. Do you know how much this unit cost? Ray and channeled every entitled businessman he'd ever met. The diagnostic calls alone take hours, And I have a ship to catch now if you'd like to explain to your supervisor why you delayed a platinum-level passenger. That won't be necessary, sir. The officer disconnected. You're cleared to proceed. They maintained their composure until reaching the private lounge. Once inside, Celia sagged against him. That was too close, she whispered. You were amazing. He helped her to a seat. Where did you learn to mimic android harmonics? I studied cybernet before switching to xenobiology. Never thought I'd use it like this. She pressed a hand to her stomach. The baby didn't like it, though. I can feel it reacting. Before Rayan could respond, the lounge's hollow screen activated with breaking news. His blood ran cold as Valerie Dio's face filled the display. We have confirmed reports of alien spouse trafficking rings operating in major spaceports, she announced. Enhanced security measures are being implemented immediately. All companion androids will undergo full molecular scanning before departure. She knows, Ryan said. Somehow she knows, as if in response to his words. Celia suddenly gasped. Her body lifted several inches off the seat, surrounded by a localized anti-gravity field. The baby, she managed through clenched teeth. Something's happening. Ryan tried to pull her back down, but the anti-grav field repelled his hands around them. Lights flickered and electronics sparked. Other passengers began to notice. We need to move now. He supported her as best he could as they hurried toward the emergency exits behind them. He heard security alerts beginning to sound. They made it 3 corridors before running into a security team led by a familiar face. Hello, Ryan, Valerie said, her expression cold, or should I say Marcus. Cold. She looked exactly as he remembered, tall, striking, with the kind of beauty that came from absolute confidence. Her division uniform fit like armor. Val, he said carefully, you don't understand what's happening here. I understand perfectly. You're harboring an illegal alien spouse. Her eyes fixed on Celia, who was still fighting to control the anti-grav manifestations, and apparently something much more interesting. Please, Celia said, the baby will be well cared for in our research facility. Valerie's smile didn't reach her eyes. The Unity Party is very interested in hybrid pregnancies, particularly ones with unusual properties. Ryan's mind raced. This isn't about deportation, is it? The whole law? It's about getting test subjects. Very good. Valerie took a step forward. You always were quick. It's one of the things I loved about you before you chose your precious principles over us. Your brother was selling military secrets that got people killed. He was trying to end a war that never should have happened. For a moment, raw pain cracked through her professional facade. We could have been happy, Ryan, but you had to be the hero. And now he challenged. Are you the hero hunting down pregnant women for government experiments? Doubt flickered in her eyes. Then Celia cried out as another anti-grav surge lifted her higher, electronics around them shorting out and cascading failures fast. Aiding, Valerie breathed. Security team containment protocols. The corridor plunged into darkness as the power grid failed completely. Emergency light sputtered trying to activate, but disrupted by whatever energy Celia was emanating. Ryan didn't hesitate. He grabbed Celia and ran, using his military training to navigate blind, while the security team stumbled in confusion. Behind them, he heard Valerie shouting orders. They emerged into a maintenance tunnel. Harsh red emergency lighting painting everything in blood tones. Celia was glowing now, her violet skin emanating a soft radiance. The baby's protecting us, she gasped. Somehow it knows we're in danger, but I can't control it. Ryan activated his encrypted comlink decks. We need extraction now. Already on it, came the reply. Head for landing pad 7. And Ryan, you should know I'm picking up some interesting chatter on government channels. They're calling it Project Evolution. Whatever's happening with that baby of yours, they've been planning for it, waiting for it. What do you mean? The law, the crackdown? It's all about finding viable hybrids. They think they're the key to the next stage of human development, and your kid is lighting up their sensors like a quantum bomb. Ryan and Celia raced through the maintenance tunnels, the sound of pursuit growing closer. Her glow had intensified, making stealth impossible. Every electronic system they passed sparked and failed. Landing pad 7 is through the cargo processing area, Ryan said, checking his nav unit. Before it too shorted out, if we can stop. Celia clutched her stomach, doubling over. The anti-gravity field expanded, dramatically lifting them both off the ground. Something's wrong. The baby, it's growing too fast. Ryan tried to reach her through the field, but was repelled around them. Metal panels began to buckle and tear from the walls. Caught in the localized gravity distortion, security teams converge on that energy signature. Valerie's voice echoed through the corridors. Full containment protocols authorized. Celia, look at me. Ryan fought against the anti-grav field. Focus on my voice. The baby responds to your emotions. Try to stay calm. Her emerald eyes locked with his. Gradually the field weakened, enough for him to reach her. The moment he touched her skin, an electrical charge surged through him, not painful, but intense. In that instant, he felt something, a presence, a consciousness, both alien and familiar. The baby, Celia whispered, it's aware more than it should be, like it's evolving in response to the danger. Before Ryan could respond, a familiar voice called out through here. Dex emerged from a side passage, his cybernetic implants glowing bright blue. Move. We got maybe 2 minutes before they locked down this whole sector. They followed him through a maze of service corridors, Celia floating between them. Twice they had to stop as waves of energy pulsed from her, disrupting everything electronic in their vicinity, except strangely Dex's implants. Your tech, Ryan noticed. Why isn't it affected? Quantum shielding, latest prototype. Dex's cybernetic eye. Word been working with the resistance. We knew this was coming, just not how fast. What resistance? The ones fighting Project Evolution, scientists, activists, even some military who think the government's gone too far. He helped them through a security door. They've been gathering evidence for months. The law wasn't just about deportation. It was about identifying potential hybrid pregnancies, studying them. They think alien DNA might be the key to unlocking human potential by experimenting on innocent people. Celia said bitterly, by any means necessary. The Unity Party believes humanity needs to evolve to compete in the galaxy, and your baby Dex glanced at her glowing form. Well, looks like they might be right about the potential part. They emerged onto landing Pad 7. A sleek transport waited, its engines already hot, but between them and freedom stood a line of security forces led by Valerie. That's far enough. She held up a hand, showing some kind of dampening device. One push of this button, and your little light show ends. Painfully. Val, think about what you're doing. Ryan pleaded. This isn't law enforcement. It's kidnapping, torture. This is evolution. But there was uncertainty in her voice. The next step for humanity. By experimenting on children. Celia's voice rang with authority, not the fake android harmonics, but something deeper. The baby's energy field expanded, lifting debris around them. By treating people like lab specimens, the needs of humanity. Dex laughed harshly. Look around, Valerie. Look what your precious Unity Party has done to humanity, making us fear our neighbors, teaching us to hate what's different. Is that evolution? Valerie's hand trembled on the dampening device. You don't understand. The orders come from the highest levels. If I don't. She never finished. A massive surge of energy erupted from Celia, expanding in a dome of pure force. Electronics died, weapons failed. The dampening device sparked uselessly. In the chaos, Ryan saw his chance. Dex, get Celia to the ship. I'll handle this. Ryan, no. Celia reached for him. Trust me. He squeezed her hand, feeling that strange connection to their child. Once more, I need to try. As Dex led Celia to the transport, Ryan approached Valerie. She stood alone now, her security forces scattered by the energy surge. Remember what you said to me during the war? He asked softly. About why you joined the division? Don't. But her voice shook. You said you wanted to build bridges to help humanity grow through connection, not conflict. He took another step closer. What happened to that woman, Val? She watched her brother go to prison, watched the man she loved choose duty over love. Tears gleamed in her eyes. Watched the galaxy laugh at humanity's weakness. Is this what strength looks like? Hunting pregnant women, experimenting on children. I have orders. You have a choice. He held out his hand. Help us expose this. Help us stop it. Be the person. I fell in love with the one who believed in bridges, not walls. For a long moment, she stood frozen. Then slowly she reached for his hand. The moment was shattered by new alarms. Heavy transport ships descended from above, bearing the insignia of Project Evolution. "They're here." Valerie breathed the research division Rayan run. "I'll buy you time, Val. Go." She shoved him toward the transport. "I'll contact the resistance. Just take care of them." Or sprinted for the ship. This project Evolution forces repelled onto the landing pad. The last thing he saw before the hatch closed was Valerie facing down. Her own people buying them precious seconds to escape. The transport lifted off decks at the controls as energy beam sliced the air around them. In the cabin, Celia's glow had finally dimmed. She lay exhausted in Rayan's arms. "The baby's calming down," she murmured. "But it's still growing so fast. Whatever's happening, we figure out." He held her close, feeling that strange connection pulse between them. "The resistance will help us understand these changes." And then what then? We expose Project Evolution show the world what the Unity Party really is. He managed to smile, maybe even change a few minds about human-alien relationships. Always the optimist, she teased weakly. "Well, I married an alien scientist and got her pregnant with a gravity-manipulating super-bab baby." Optimism seems reasonable at this point. As they broke atmosphere, Dex called back. "We've got company, multiple pursuit craft launching. Can we outrun them? Maybe, but we got a bigger problem." Dex's cybernetic eye flashed. "Just got word from my resistance contacts. Project Evolution ? They're not just studying hybrid pregnancies." "What do you mean? They're trying to create them deliberately on a massive scale?" His expression was grim. "And your babies' energy readings, they match exactly what their scientists predicted, like they knew what would happen." "That's impossible," Celia whispered. "Unless they engineered it," Ray finished, "somehow influenced hybrid pregnancies to produce these effects." "Which means," Dex said, "they're not just going to chase us, they're going to throw everything they have at getting that baby." As if to emphasize his words, the suit craft opened fire. The transport shuddered as Dex executed evasive maneuvers. "Hold on," he shouted. "This is going to get interesting." The transport bucked under enemy fire as Dex wove through Earth's orbital defense grid. Pursuit craft swarmed around them, weapons blazing. "We've got incoming!" Dex shouted, multiple government cruisers converging in the cabin. Celia suddenly doubled over Rayan. "It's happening, the baby, it's coming now." Here he held her as another blast rocked the ship. The stress, the excitement, she gasped as her body began to glow brighter than ever. It's triggered something. The ship's systems fluctuated wildly as waves of energy pulsed from her through the chaos. Rayan's calm link crackled to life. "Rayan, do you copy?" Valerie's voice breathless. "I've accessed the orbital defense network. I can create a gap. But you need to broadcast, show everyone what's really happening." "Broadcast?" He looked at Celia, understanding dawning. "Val, can you patch us into the global news feeds?" "Already working on it. Get ready, you're about to have the biggest audience in human history." Dex's cybernetic eye flashed. "She's right. If people see this birth, see what the Unity Party is really fighting to control, do it," Celia commanded through gritted teeth. Another energy surge lifted her off the deck. "Let them see everything." Rayan activated the ship's internal cameras as Valerie's hack took effect across Earth and its colonies. Regular programming interrupted with their feed. Millions watched as Celia floated in a sphere of golden light, her violet skin, luminescent white hair flowing in waves of energy. "Citizens of Earth," Rayan spoke to the cameras, "what you're witnessing isn't a threat to humanity. It's our future, the next step in our evolution, not through force or fear, but through love." Pursuit craft continued firing, but their weapons seemed to dissolve in the expanding field of energy around the ship. Celia cried out as contractions intensified. The golden light grew blinding. "Keep broadcasting," Valerie's voice urged. "The whole world is watching. Public opinion is turning. The Unity Party is losing control." Through the ship's external cameras, they could see the gathering flotilla of government vessels. But something else was happening. Civilian ships were moving to intercept, forming a protective barrier around their transport. "You're not alone," Valerie reported. "Pro-alien groups, resistance cells, ordinary citizens, they're all rallying to protect you. The Unity Party can't shoot down civilians without proving everything we've accused them of." Inside the ship, Celia's labor progressed with supernatural speed. The transport's broadcast reached every corner of Earth and its colonies. Billions watched as Celia floated in the golden energy field, her labor reaching its peak. The government cruisers held their fire, their crews transfixed like everyone else by the historic moment unfolding. Before them looked Dex, whispered, his cybernetic eye recording everything. They're all watching. Celia's final push came with a surge of energy that briefly outshone the stars themselves. When the light dimmed, a baby's cry echoed through the silence of space. The child seemed to glow from within, its golden skin shimmering with a light that combined the warmth of human flesh with the ethereal luminescence of its Illyrian heritage. The impact was immediate across Earth. People stopped what they were doing, moved by the undeniable beauty of what they witnessed. The Unity Party's carefully constructed narrative of fear crumbled in the face of this new life. My God, Valerie's voice cracked over the comms. They're taking to the streets everywhere. The Unity Party is losing control. Protests erupted in every major city. Politicians who had supported the law began issuing hasty retractions. Within hours, the Alien Marriage Prohibition Act was suspended, but aboard the pursuing military vessels, Project Evolution's commanders made one final desperate attempt. All units capture protocols remain in effect. The order came: secure the hybrid child at any cost. Ray and Valerie warned 3 assault shuttles launching. They're not giving up. Get Celia and the baby out of here, Ray, and ordered Dex. I'll hold them off. Not alone, you won't. Valerie's ship appeared alongside theirs. I've got your back. What followed was a desperate battle in Earth's orbit. Ryan and Valerie's ships danced through space, drawing fire, while Dex's transport escaped with Celia and the newborn. The Resistance's underground network guided them to Sci-fi. While the world watched the Last Stand broadcast live, the final blow to Project Evolution came when their own troops began standing down, refusing orders to fire on new parents. The commanding officers were arrested by their own security forces. 24 hours later, the Alien Marriage Prohibition Act was officially repealed. Detention centers opened their doors, releasing all imprisoned alien spouses. The Unity Party collapsed under the weight of public outrage. In the aftermath, Ryan found Celia and their child in a Resistance safe house. The baby glowed softly in the darkness, a living symbol of humanity's future. It's over, he said, holding them both. A new beginning. Celia corrected, watching their child create tiny auroras with a wave of its small hand. Valerie declined the amnesty offered to government agents who had helped expose Project Evolution. She disappeared into the Resistance, continuing the fight for those who still face prejudice. The world had changed not through force or fear, but through the simple power of love made visible for all to see. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a golden-skinned child dreamed of stars, while its parents watched over the dawn of a new age. 1 year later, the observation deck of the Galactic Alliance headquarters offered a panoramic view of Earth. Below, Rayan stood at the window, his golden-skinned child balanced on his hip, watching ships of all species come and go freely, looking for familiar faces. Celia's voice came from behind him. She wrapped her arms around them, both her violet skin contrasting beautifully with their child's luminescent glow. Valerie's latest intelligence drop came in. Rayan said more Unity Party holdouts identified more families, saved their baby, reached out tiny fingers trailing starlight in the air. In the years since the birth that changed everything, thousands of human-alien couples had come forward, many with children showing similar gifts, each one unique, each one helping to bridge the gap between species in their own way. The Assembly is voting today on the Interspecies Rights Act. Celia said, our little revolution keeps growing. Speaking of growing, Rayan gave her a knowing look. How are you feeling? She smiled, placing a hand on her slightly rounded belly. Her second child is considerably less dramatic than the first, though she did make all the flowers in the garden float this morning. She mothers intuition. Celia's emerald eyes sparkled. Plus, our son told me he's quite excited about being a big brother. As if in agreement, their child created a miniature aurora around them, all his golden skin pulsing with joy. Below, Earth continued its transformation. The old fears were fading, replaced by a new understanding. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, not through force or control, but through love and acceptance. And in the stars above, countless possibilities awaited. Dear listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey through a future where love transcends not just boundaries, but entire solar systems. Through Ryan and Celia's story, we explored how fear can divide us, but courage and love can transform entire societies. What touched you most about their journey? Was it their defiance against unjust laws, the mystery of their extraordinary child, or perhaps Valerie's redemption as she chose justice over duty? I'm particularly curious about your thoughts on the story's message about evolution and change, how true progress comes not through force or fear, but through connection and understanding. Did this resonate with you? Please share your thoughts and reactions. What moments stood out? What would you have done in Ryan and or Celia's position? How do you think their story might continue? Rate this story from 1 to 10, and let me know what elements you'd like to see explored.